The sound of heavy chains echoed through the glass hall of Solara Prime, a shining alien city that floated above the clouds. The hall was full of strange creatures, some with glowing eyes, some with crystal skin, and others covered in golden armor. They had all come for one thing: the human auction. Humans were rare in this part of the galaxy. After the Earth Wars, many were taken as slaves, sold to the highest bidder. To most aliens, humans were weak, soft, and emotional, nothing more than living tools. But one human stood different that night. His name was Evan Cole. He stood in the center of the platform, his hands tied, his body covered with dust and bruises. His eyes were tired but alive. Even in fear, he looked straight ahead, not down. The crowd whispered. Some aliens liked that. Others found it funny that a human dared to show pride. The announcer's voice thundered. Next item, Lot 49. Human male, strong build, speaks 3 languages, trained for work and combat. Opening bid, 2,000 credits. The crowd murmured. A few raised their glowing cards. The price went up fast, 3, 4, 5,000 credits. Then suddenly silence. A tall figure in a dark silver cloak entered the hall. The air seemed to freeze. Everyone turned to look. It was Mistress Elara, known across the sectors as one of the most powerful traders of the Orion cluster. Her species, the Vereen, were tall, elegant beings with skin that shimmered like liquid metal and eyes that could glow different colors depending on emotion. Elara's eyes were icy blue tonight, cold and calculating. She didn't like slaves. In fact, she rarely attended these auctions. But tonight she was here for something else, an artifact. Still, as she passed, her gaze met Evan's. For a brief moment, something strange flickered in her eyes. 5,000 credits, she said softly. The announcer blinked. 5,000 confirmed. Any higher bids? No one spoke. No one dared to compete with Elara. Sold to Mistress Elara. The chains unlocked. Evan was pushed toward her. He expected cruelty, commands, maybe pain. But she didn't even look at him again. She just turned and said, "Bring him to my ship." The guards dragged Evan out of the hall and into the bright corridors of the floating city. Outside, the world of Solara glowed, a sky full of silver moons and flying ships moving like fireflies. When they reached Elara's ship, Evan noticed how different it was. It wasn't just a vessel, it was art. The walls pulsed with soft light and the air smelled like ocean wind. The guards left and the doors closed. He stood there alone, not knowing what to expect. Then, a voice spoke, calm, smooth, and distant. "You can look up, human." Evan raised his head. Mistress Elara stood before him, her silver hair shining under the light. She studied him like one studies a puzzle. "You're not from the slave markets of Titan," she said. "You fought, didn't you?" Evan didn't answer. He knew better than to talk first. She smiled slightly. "You're brave. Or foolish. Does it matter?" he said quietly. That answer made her pause. She expected fear, not defiance. There was something raw about his tone, something real. "You'll serve me," she said finally. "But not as others do. I don't need a worker or a soldier. I need someone who listens." That confused him even more. "Listens to what?" "To silence," she whispered. "There's too much noise in my world." For a moment her voice sounded lonely. Evan saw something in her eyes. Sadness, maybe. But before he could say anything, she turned away. "Rest, food will be brought. You'll begin tomorrow." Then she walked through a door that sealed behind her like liquid metal. Evan sat down slowly. His mind raced. Who was this woman? Why would someone so powerful buy him only to talk about silence? Outside, the ship began to move, leaving Solara behind. Through the glass wall, Evan saw stars stretch into bright lines. He was no longer a man on Earth. He was now a shadow in an alien's world. But deep inside, a question grew in his heart. Was he her prisoner? Or something else? The stars outside blinked like they were watching. And somewhere, deep in the ship, Mistress Elara stood by the window, touching the glass with one silver hand. Strange, she whispered to herself. Why did I feel something? For a human? The ship disappeared into hyperspace. The story had just begun. The sound of engines hummed softly through the corridors of Mistress Elara's ship, the Seraphine. The vessel glided through space like a silent shadow, its metallic surface reflecting distant starlight. Inside, everything was calm, too calm for Evan Cole. He sat on the narrow bed in his small cabin. For the first time in months, he wasn't in chains. The room was clean, warm, and filled with a faint blue glow. There was even food, alien fruit that shimmered like tiny suns. But he couldn't eat much. Freedom of comfort didn't feel like real freedom. Why would an alien mistress buy me and then let me rest? He whispered to himself. He remembered her eyes, cold and sharp, yet hiding something he couldn't name. That moment they first locked gazes, it felt like something unseen passed between them. Suddenly the door slid open. A small hovering sphere floated inside, glowing white. It spoke in a soft metallic voice. "Human Unit Evan Cole, Mistress Alara requests your presence." He sighed. "Guess I don't have a choice." The sphere led him through shining halls that curved like liquid glass. Strange alien symbols glowed on the walls. The ship wasn't built for humans. Everything was slightly too tall, too smooth. Finally, the door to the observation deck opened. Mistress Alara stood there, looking out at the endless sea of stars. Her silver hair floated slightly, moved by the hum of the energy field. She didn't turn around when Evan entered. "You dream of the stars, don't you?" she said quietly. Evan froze. "How do you know that?" "Your pulse changed when you saw them through the window last night. Humans still react emotionally to light and space. It's fascinating," he frowned. "You were watching me?" She turned now, her blue eyes glowing faintly. "I watch everything on my ship." There was silence. For a moment he thought she might punish him for his tone, but instead she walked closer. "Tell me, human," she said softly. "What did you see when you looked at those stars?" He hesitated, then said, "Home, maybe not Earth, but something that feels like hope." Her expression shifted just slightly. That word hope was strange to her. The Vereen didn't believe in hope. They believed in control, power, and logic. "Hope," she repeated, almost tasting the word. "An emotion built on nothing." "Maybe," Evan said, "but it keeps people alive." That made her pause. For the first time she smiled, but it was sad. "You speak too freely for a slave." "Maybe you bought the wrong man," he said quietly. Elara's eyes flashed brighter, but instead of anger, there was curiosity. "Perhaps," she murmured. "Or perhaps the right one." She turned back toward the window. Outside, a comet passed by, leaving a trail of blue fire. "Do you know why humans are so rare now, Evan Cole?" she asked. He shook his head. "Because they never stopped fighting," she said. "Even when they had no chance. My people saw it as madness. I used to agree. But now," she looked at him again. "I'm not sure." Evan's chest tightened. Her tone wasn't cruel anymore, it was thoughtful. He could feel that behind her calm there was a storm. Suddenly the ship's lights flickered red. A loud alarm blared. The AI voice shouted, "Incoming vessel, unidentified."
"Shields up!"
Ilara's eyes narrowed. "Pirates!" She moved fast, pressing glowing panels on the wall. The room shifted as shields activated. She turned to Evan. "Stay here." "No," he said, stepping forward. "I can help. I fought in the Mars Wars. I know combat." She looked at him with disbelief. "A human slave helping a Vereen mistress?" "Maybe we both need help," he said simply. For the first time, Ilara didn't command. She nodded. "Fine. Armory is 2 doors left. Don't die." The next few minutes were chaos. The Seraphine shook under enemy fire. Alien lights flashed through the windows. Evan grabbed a plasma rifle from the armory. Old model, but deadly enough. He ran through the corridor, joining Ilara at the control deck. She stood in the center, her hands glowing as she controlled the ship with neural links. Her eyes flickered like lightning. "They're trying to board us," she shouted. "Then we stop them." Evan fired at the screen, locking the ship's turrets. Explosions filled the view. The ship tilted. Ilara stumbled. Evan caught her. Their faces came close, just for a heartbeat. Something unspoken passed again. "You saved me," she said softly. "You're welcome," he replied. For a Vereen mistress, gratitude was rare. But in that second, the cold distance between them began to melt. As the pirate ship exploded in the distance, silence returned to the stars. Ilara stood beside him, breathing hard. "You fought well, human," she said. "And you're not as cold as you look," he said with a small grin. She raised an eyebrow. "Careful, Evan Cole. Some words can get you thrown out of an airlock." "Yeah, but you won't," he said quietly. "You don't want to." She stared at him for a long moment, her blue eyes now softer. Then she turned away. "We'll see," she said. Outside, the wreckage of the pirate ship burned like a dying star. But inside the Seraphine, something new had begun to glow, a feeling neither human nor alien could explain. The silence after battle was strange. No alarms, no gunfire, only the soft hum of the Seraphine drifting through the darkness of space. Evan Cole sat near the engine bay cleaning the plasma rifle. His hands were steady, but his mind wasn't. He had just fought side by side with an alien who could destroy him with a thought, and yet, he'd seen something human in her eyes, Mistress Alara. He still didn't understand her. She was powerful, cold, and calm, but sometimes when she looked at him, her expression softened, like someone remembering a dream they didn't want to lose. The door opened quietly. Alara stepped inside, her silver hair flowing, her blue eyes dimmer than usual. For once, she wasn't wearing her command robe. Instead, she wore something simple, a dark cloak with glowing seams. Evan stood quickly. "Mistress," she raised a hand. "No need for titles. You saved my ship. You've earned a name." He blinked. "I already have one." Her lips curved slightly. "Then perhaps I've earned yours, Evan Cole." The way she said his name made his heart beat faster. She walked closer, stopping just a step away. "Tell me," she said softly. "When you fight, do you feel fear?" "Always," he said honestly. "But fear keeps you alive." "My kind erased fear generations ago," she replied. "We call it an old weakness. But when you fought beside me, I felt it again. It was real." She placed her hand over her chest where her heart would be. "It's still there," she whispered almost to herself. Evan didn't know what to say. For the first time, she looked fragile, not like a mistress or a conqueror, but like someone lost in her own emotions. "Maybe that's not weakness," he said quietly. "Maybe it's what makes you alive." Alara looked at him sharply, but didn't argue. Then she turned toward the large window that showed the stars outside. The galaxy looked endless, a storm of colors and light. "You know," she said, "my people don't believe in love. We believe in exchange. Everything has a price." "And what was my price?" he asked. She looked back at him, her expression unreadable. 5,000 credits, she said simply. "A careless purchase. Do you regret it?"
She hesitated.
"No, but I don't understand it." There was a long pause. The engine hummed like a heartbeat beneath their feet. Then she said something unexpected. "Would you like to see my world?" Evan frowned. "Solara Prime?" "No, my homeworld, Varenus. Few humans have seen it. None have lived there." He smiled slightly. "So you're trusting me?" "Trust is not a Varene word," she said. "But perhaps it should be." Hours later, the ship descended through a golden atmosphere. Beneath them spread a world made of light, cities built on waterfalls, towers floating above glowing oceans, and skies full of energy lines like living lightning. Evan stared in awe. "It's beautiful." Alara looked out too, her expression distant. "Beauty doesn't mean peace," she said. "My people look perfect, but we are hollow inside." The ship landed on a crystal platform near a massive palace. As they stepped out, Varene guards bowed. Their metallic armor gleamed under the twin suns. Evan felt small, surrounded by beings who looked almost divine. But Alara placed a hand on his shoulder, soft, protective. The guards looked shocked. "No Viren ever touched a human with respect. He is under my protection," she said coldly. "Any harm to him is harm to me." The guards stepped back immediately. As they entered the palace, Evan whispered, "Why did you do that?" "Because they wouldn't understand," she said. "They don't see humans as alive. And you do?" She looked at him for a long moment. "I'm starting to." Inside the palace, Alara led him to a balcony overlooking the glowing city. "This place," she said softly, "once made me proud. Now it feels empty." Evan leaned on the railing beside her. "Maybe it's not the place that's empty. Maybe it's just lonely." She turned her head slightly, studying him. "Humans see emotions as strength. My kind sees them as chains. You confuse me, Evan Cole." "Maybe confusion is the first step to change," he said. For a long moment, neither spoke. The golden light of the suns painted her face. Alara reached out slowly, touching his wrist. Her fingers were cool, metallic, but gentle. "You are different," she whispered. "And I hate that I keep thinking about you." Evan looked at her, not afraid. "Maybe that's because you're starting to feel human." Her hand trembled just slightly. Then she stepped back. "Careful, human," she said quietly. "You speak like someone who doesn't value his life." "Maybe I'm speaking like someone who finally found one," he said. Her eyes glowed brighter, blue mixed with a hint of silver, the color of conflict. Then she turned away, her voice barely a whisper. You shouldn't make me feel this. That night, Elara stood alone in her private chamber watching the twin moons rise. Her reflection shimmered in the glass. Emotions are not real, she whispered to herself. They are chemical illusions, but her chest ached. She pressed a hand against it. The beat inside was faster, warmer. Somewhere deep inside, the alien mistress began to realize something terrifying. She wasn't controlling her feelings anymore, they were controlling her. And the cause of it all was a single human slave who looked at the stars and saw hope. The twin suns of Varenus rose like two golden eyes watching over the city of crystal towers. Mistress Elara stood at her balcony, dressed in silver armor that shimmered in the morning light. Her reflection in the glass looked calm, but her mind was anything but. She had not slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw him. The human, Evan Cole, his voice, his eyes, his strange courage. It all replayed in her mind like a song she couldn't turn off. A Virene feeling emotion for a human was not just strange, it was forbidden. The High Council would call it weakness. Her rivals would call it treason. And yet, when she thought of Evan, something deep within her, something she didn't know existed, felt alive. She turned as the door opened. It was her assistant, a tall Virene male named Kale, his skin the color of steel and his expression cold. Mistress Elara, he said, bowing slightly. The council has summoned you. So early? She asked, her tone sharp. There are questions about your recent activities, especially your purchase. Elara's heart tightened. The human. Yes, some say he's been given privileges. That you speak to him, that you protect him. Her blue eyes flashed. And what of it? Kale hesitated. It's unusual. They fear human influence. You know how the council views emotion. Elara turned back to the balcony, hiding her expression. Prepare my ship, she said coldly. If they want answers, I'll give them myself. Down in the lower gardens, Evan walked among alien plants that glowed softly under the twin suns. The air was warm, the ground smooth like glass. It was the most peaceful place he had ever seen. But he wasn't free. Guards watched him from a distance. He was still a possession, no matter how kind Elara had been. He knelt beside a small pool of blue water, touching its surface. It rippled like liquid light. He could see his reflection, tired eyes, unshaven face, the mark of chains still faint on his wrist. Still a slave, he whispered. Even in paradise. Not to me, said a voice behind him. Evan turned quickly. Elara stood there, looking as regal as ever. You should be preparing for your council, he said. I am, she replied. But first, I wanted to see you, Evan frowned. That's dangerous, isn't it? They're already questioning you. Let them question, she said firmly. They have forgotten what it means to feel. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. If they ask about you, I'll say you're useful. That's all, but...
She hesitated.
Her usual control faltered. When I look at you, Evan, it doesn't feel like utility. He looked into her glowing eyes and saw something he never expected. Fear. Not of power or politics, but of emotion itself. You're changing, he said softly. No, she whispered. I'm breaking. Later that day, Elara entered the hall of the High Council, a massive chamber carved from living crystal. The council members sat in a circle, their metallic faces unreadable, their eyes glowing in judgment. The leader, Elder Varus, spoke. Mistress Elara of the Orion Cluster, you have been summoned to explain your recent behavior. I have done nothing against our law, she said calmly. You purchased a human. You brought it to Varenus. You gave it freedom of movement. He is under my command, she said. I decide how he serves. And does he serve, or does he influence? Varus asked coldly. The question hit harder than she expected. Her silence was enough. The council murmured among themselves. Emotion is weakness, Varus said. And weakness spreads like disease. We will not allow a Virene to fall under human corruption. You mistake compassion for corruption, Elara replied. Then perhaps you have already fallen. Her fists clenched. The energy in the room shifted, walls glowing faintly from her rising power. Careful, Elder, she warned. Do not mistake control for understanding. Varus leaned forward. You are warned, Mistress Elara. Release the human, or we will take action. Back on the ship, Evan waited. The guards had been doubled. Something was wrong. When Alara finally returned, her eyes were darker than before, stormy, unreadable. "What happened?" he asked. "They know," she said quietly. "They see what I feel. They want to end it." "Then run," he said. "Take the ship. Leave this world." "If I run, I lose everything I've built," she whispered. "And if you stay, you lose yourself," he replied. She stared at him, breathing deeply. For a long moment, no words passed. Only the hum of the ship filled the air. Finally, she reached out and touched his face. Her fingers trembled. "You make me question everything I am," she said. "And I hate you for it." "No," Evan said softly. "You don't hate me. You hate that you can't hide anymore." Her eyes glowed brighter, shimmering between blue and silver, love and fear fighting inside her. Then suddenly, a red alarm lit the room. The ship AI spoke. "Warning, Council forces inbound. They have locked onto the Seraphine." Alara turned toward the window, her jaw set. "They're coming to take you," she said. "Or to kill me." "Then let them come," Evan said, standing beside her. "We fight together again." She looked at him, her human, her mistake, her truth. "No," she whispered. "This time." "We run," the engines roared. The ship lifted into the storming sky. Behind them, the golden city of Virenus burned in the light of its twin suns. And in that moment, Mistress Alara made her choice to defy her people, to protect her heart, and to save the one human who had taught her what it meant to feel alive. Space burned behind them as the Seraphine raced through the dark void, chased by light. Explosions glimmered like dying suns, and the sound of alarms filled the halls. Evan Cole held onto the control seat beside Mistress Alara. The ship shook violently as she pushed its engines to the limit. "They're gaining on us!" Evan shouted. "Not for long," Alara replied, her voice sharp but steady. "Hold tight." She pressed her glowing fingers onto the navigation panel. Energy rippled through the air as the ship dove into a nebula, a massive cloud of color and chaos. Lightning streaked outside the windows. The chasing ships followed, until Alara's eyes glowed silver. She whispered something in her native tongue, and the nebula answered. A wave of plasma surged through space, striking the pursuers. One by one, the Varine ships exploded in flashes of blue fire. Then, silence. The Seraphine floated in the soft, glowing mist. Alara leaned back, breathing heavily. Her skin flickered with dim light, her energy nearly drained. Evan looked at her, worried. "You okay?" "That maneuver," she said softly, "should have killed me." "Why didn't it?" She looked at him. "Maybe because I didn't want to leave you." Evan froze. Her words hit deeper than she intended. For a second, they both sat there, caught in the strange quiet between heartbeat and breath. Hours later, the ship drifted in the nebula's calm zone. The damage was severe. Systems flickered. The engines hummed weakly. Alara sat near the command deck, her armor removed, a small wound glowing faintly on her arm. Evan approached, carrying a med pack. "Let me help," he said. "Human medicine won't work on Varine," she muttered. "Good thing I'm not using medicine," he said, showing a small tool. "Just sealing the wound." She watched him carefully as he worked. His hands were steady, his touch gentle. For someone who once fought in wars, his care felt almost tender. "You risked everything for me," he said quietly. "You lost your home, your people." "I didn't lose them," she corrected. "They lost me. Why?" She looked away. "Because I did the one thing they fear most, I felt." Evan smiled sadly. "And what do you feel now?" She didn't answer immediately. Her glowing eyes softened. "Something I don't have a name for." "Humans call it love," he said softly. The word hung in the air like fragile glass. Alara didn't respond. She just looked at him, her expression unreadable, but her silence spoke louder than any word. Suddenly, the ship's lights dimmed. The AI voice crackled. "Warning. Energy reserves at 10%. Hull temperature rising. Recommend landing," Alara frowned. "There's no planet within range. Wait." She looked at the map. "There. An abandoned mining colony on Vesta 9. We can hide there." The ship descended through the mist, breaking through the clouds of a dead world. The surface was barren. Black rocks, cold winds, and old metal towers reaching like broken fingers into the sky. They landed near a ruined facility. The air was thin but breathable. Evan followed her out of the ship. Nice place, he joked. It's forgotten, she said. That's what we need right now. Inside the structure, they found shelter among rusted walls and flickering lights. Evan started a small heater using old power cells. The warm light flickered between them. You know, he said, sitting across from her, I used to think aliens didn't feel anything. You've proved me wrong. And I used to think humans were fragile, she said softly. You've proved me wrong too. They both smiled faintly. Then, out of nowhere, thunder rolled across the sky. The old building trembled. Ilara looked up. Her instincts sharpened instantly. They found us, Evan stood. Already? Vereen ships, she said, eyes glowing again. They never stop. He grabbed his weapon. Then neither do we. She turned to him, half in fear, half in admiration. You still think we can fight an entire fleet? I don't care about fleets, he said. I care about you. Ilara stared at him, her heart pounding faster. For Vereen, emotions were a storm. And now, the storm had a name. Evan Cole. The ground shook as enemy ships landed nearby. Lights flashed through the dust. They want me alive, Ilara said. They'll destroy everything to get to you. Then they'll have to go through both of us. She hesitated, then reached out, taking his hand. For a moment, alien and human, light and flesh connected. Evan, she whispered, if we die here, I want to remember this moment. Not as a mistress and her slave, but as two people who finally found something worth dying for, he finished. Their hands tightened together. Outside, the air roared with fire. The battle was coming, and in that broken world surrounded by war, the forbidden bond between them burned brighter than the stars. The night on Vesta 9 burned with light. Explosions flashed across the black sky as the Vereen Council fleet descended, silver ships cutting through the darkness like blades. Inside the ruined mining base, Evan Cole stood beside Mistress Ilara, both armed, both ready. The ground shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. The sound of engines and marching troops filled the air. They're here, Evan said, gripping his weapon. They won't stop until I'm dead, Ilara replied, her glowing eyes fixed on the horizon. Or until you are. She pressed her hand to a console, activating the old defense grid. Rusted cannons rose from the sand, glowing weakly with blue light. That'll buy us a few minutes, she said. Then we make those minutes count. The first wave hit hard. Energy blasts tore through the air, lighting up the ruins. The sound was deafening. Evan ducked behind cover, firing back. One alien soldier fell, then another. The plasma rifle burned hot in his hands. Ilara moved like lightning, her silver skin glowing brighter, her hands forming orbs of pure energy. She struck the invaders with precision, every movement graceful and deadly. You fight like you were born for this, Evan shouted over the noise. Maybe I was, she said, hurling another blast. But not anymore. The cannons exploded one by one. The enemy kept advancing. Then a powerful voice echoed through the comms. Mistress Ilara of the Vereen. Surrender now and you will be spared. Ilara froze for a moment. She knew that voice, Elder Varys, the one who had once been her mentor. He's here, she whispered. Then it's personal, Evan replied. No, she said firmly. It's worse. It's judgment. The air trembled as a massive ship landed nearby, crushing the rocks beneath it. The doors opened and Elder Varys stepped out, tall and shining, his eyes blazing like molten stars. You've gone too far, Ilara, he said. You have polluted your blood with human weakness. Weakness? She shouted back. You call compassion weakness? You call love corruption? Varys raised his hand. The soldiers behind him aimed their weapons. You call it love? He said coldly. Then you are already lost. He fired. The beam shot straight toward Evan, but Ilara moved faster. She threw herself in front of him. The blast struck her chest, sending her crashing into the wall. Ilara. Evan ran to her side. Her metallic skin flickered with cracks of light. She coughed, glowing blood dripping from her lips. You shouldn't have done that, he whispered. You're the reason I did, she said weakly, smiling. Evan turned, fury in his eyes. He picked up his weapon and fired at Varys with everything he had, but the elder deflected every shot with a wave of his hand. Pathetic human, Varys sneered. You think you can fight the Vereen? No, Evan said. But we can. He looked down at Ilara. Her eyes were dimming, but her voice was steady. Evan, connect to me. What? Take my hand. He grabbed her hand without hesitation. Suddenly, light burst between them, white and blinding. His body trembled as a strange power flooded through him. Her voice echoed inside his mind. "We are one now. My energy. Your will." Evan rose, his eyes glowing silver like hers. His body shone with faint light, half human, half Virine. Varys stepped back in shock. "Impossible." "No," Evan said, his voice layered with hers. "Evolution." He lifted his hand and a wave of energy surged from his palm. The ground split open. The soldiers were thrown back like leaves in the wind. Varys screamed, striking again, but Elara's power moved through Evan, blocking every attack. The two energies collided, shaking the sky. Finally, with one last burst of light, Varys's weapon shattered, and he fell to his knees. "Mercy," he gasped. "You never showed mercy," Evan said quietly. "Wait," Elara whispered from behind. "No killing. Not like them." Her voice broke through the rage. Evan lowered his hand. The battle ended. Varys looked up, eyes full of disbelief. "You've doomed yourself, Elara. You've broken every law." "Then I'll make new ones," she said weakly. "Ones that let us feel." Varys vanished in a flash of retreat light, leaving the battlefield silent. Evan knelt beside her. The glow in her body was fading fast. "Stay with me," he said. "Please, don't be sad," she whispered. "I finally understand love. Because of you." He held her close as the first light of dawn touched the ruined ground. "You're not dying," he said fiercely. "Not after all this." Elara smiled faintly. "Then, don't let me fade." He closed his eyes. The light from her body flowed into his chest, warm and blinding. When he opened his eyes again, she was gone. Only a faint silver mark remained on his skin, glowing softly over his heart. He looked up at the empty sky and whispered, "You're still here. I'll carry you." And as he walked out of the ruins, the morning stars seemed to follow, each one burning with the same light that once lived in her eyes. Days passed, or maybe weeks. Time meant little on Vesta 9, where the sun was pale and the nights endless. Evan Cole walked through the ruins alone. The once broken sky was now quiet. The war was over, or maybe just forgotten. The mark on his chest still glowed faintly, silver like moonlight. Every time he touched it, he felt her, Mistress Elara. Her voice no longer spoke, but her presence lived inside him like a heartbeat that wasn't his. He'd buried her body beneath the twin moons, covering the spot with pieces of shining crystal. He didn't know if it was a Virine custom or a human one, it just felt right. "You saved me," he whispered to the wind. "Now I have to live for both of us." Far beyond Vesta 9, the Virine Council was in chaos. Elder Varys had returned in defeat, his pride shattered. Word spread quickly. A human had fought the Virine and lived. Worse, a Virine mistress had loved that human. For the first time in centuries, the Virine questioned their laws. Some whispered that Elara had not fallen into weakness, but had risen into something greater. In quiet corners of the empire, rebels began to speak her name like a myth. The Silver Heart, they called her. A legend of forbidden love. A spark that could not be silenced. On Vesta 9, Evan built a small camp among the ruins. He repaired parts of the Seraphine, though some systems refused to power up. The AI sometimes flickered to life, speaking in Elara's voice. "Evan, do you copy?" It wasn't real, just recordings, echoes left in the machine. But he answered anyway, always. When the loneliness became heavy, he stared at the stars. Each one reminded him of her, bright, cold, and eternal. But one night something strange happened. The mark on his chest pulsed, glowing brighter than ever before. The air shimmered. The ship's systems came online by themselves. Lights flickered. The engines hummed. "Elara?" he whispered. The ship's AI voice changed. It was no longer the mechanical tone. It was her. "Evan," he froze. "You're alive?" "Not alive. Not dead. I am within you." Her image appeared on the ship's screen, made of light, her silver form transparent but beautiful. Her eyes glowed softly. "You carried my essence when I faded," she said. "My energy fused with your human core. Part of me survived through you." Evan's breath caught. "You mean you're inside my mind?" "Not your mind," she said gently. "Your heart." He laughed softly, tears glinting in his eyes. "You always had to be poetic, didn't you?" She smiled. "It's your influence. I learned it from you." He stepped closer to the screen. "Can you come back?" Her face dimmed slightly. Not in body. My energy cannot form again, but I can guide you. I can help you finish what we started. What we started? A world where Vereen and humans are not enemies, she said. A world that understands love, not fear. Evan looked out at the stars again. You think that's possible? You made me believe in the impossible, she whispered. Now it's your turn. Over the next months, the Seraphine flew again. Evan and the digital echo of Alara traveled from world to world, spreading messages of unity, rescuing slaves, helping colonies forgotten by war. Some called him the human with the silver eyes, because when he fought, his pupils glowed with her light. Some called him a traitor. Others called him a miracle. And slowly stories began to spread about an alien mistress who gave up immortality for love, and a human who carried her spirit among the stars. One evening, as the ship floated near a quiet blue planet, Evan stood by the window, watching the horizon. You ever miss it? He asked softly. Your world? No, her voice answered. I have a new one now. It's wherever you are, he smiled faintly. You know, if someone told me years ago I'd fall in love with an alien who lived inside a ship, I'd say they were insane. And now? Now I just think I'm lucky. There was silence for a moment. Then her voice, softer than starlight. You are not my slave anymore, Evan. You never were. He touched the mark on his chest, which glowed in response. No, he said. Now I'm your memory. Far across the galaxy, the Vereen Council finally fell. New leaders rose, ones who spoke Alara's name with respect. Statues of her shimmered in the plazas of new cities, showing a Vereen holding a human's hand under the same stars. And among those stars, the Seraphine continued to drift. Two souls, one body, one love. As the ship vanished into hyperspace, her voice echoed one last time, gentle, eternal, full of peace. Evan, the stars were always watching us. He smiled, eyes shining silver under the glow of infinity. Then let them remember. And together, human and alien light and soul, they disappeared into the endless sky, forever free,